All right, here we are on our third episode on Christian Apologetics, focusing in on the book of Dionysus, the Dionysiaca. We've started in chapter 6, the first two episodes, and in those we've seen many crazy things from the origins and parents of Lucifer, his parents Astraeus and Creos and their tie-ins, who those characters are, to the origins of astrology and the identity of Zeus as Satan, as shown by the Greek use of the words in this book, and then the same used in the Bible, calling him the dragon, the shapeshifter, right? And then we're going to show how he's also that devil in this study, based upon his actions. Yeah, becoming a dragon and having an affair with his daughter. Seemed to be more of a violent affair, and having his child Zagreus, which is a two-form Nephilim, so half beast, half man, and it's either a bull or a goat. Before the flood, it was a bull. So Zagreus is a bull god, like the Minotaur, right? And so we are going to learn that this myth ties in deep to other myths as well: Sumerian, Egyptian, the Book of Enoch. And we have reached this part in the story where Zagreus is born to Persephone and Zeus, aka Satan. And Zagreus is born as a bull-headed two-form god, like I said. He takes the throne of Zeus here, we're going to get to, but yet is still killed by Titans. So let's research together and see if we can start making some sense of these mythologies and conclude by tying them in to the Book of Enoch. And we're going to start here where we left off, just a little review. Here we are, 155. Ah, maiden Persephone, you could not find how to escape your mating. No, a dragon was your mate. When Zeus changed his face and came rolling in, many a loving coil through the dark corner of the maiden's chamber, and shaking his hairy chaps, he lulled to sleep the eyes of those creatures of his own shape, dragons, guarding the door. He lit Persephone. By this marriage with the heavenly Dracon, the womb of Persephone swelled with living fruit, and she bore Zagreus, the horned baby, who by himself climbed upon the heavenly throne of Zeus and brandished lightning in his little hand, and newly born lifted and carried the thunderbolts in his tender fingers. So there he is, given the throne. One way to look at Zeus is the 12 zodiac, parts of the zodiac, right? And Zeus is represented by Jupiter, which takes 12 years to go throughout the zodiac, right? And so Zeus, when he has a child, it conforms to the age of the zodiac. So this period of time is before the flood, and that was the age of Taurus. So that's why he had a Taurus child, right? A bull-faced man. But that bull-faced man, Zagreus, did not hold the throne of Zeus for long. It seems like by the fierce resentment of Hera, the Titans smeared their faces with chalk, and while Dionysus contemplated his changeling countenance reflected in a mirror, they destroyed him with an infernal knife. So remember that infernal knife, because it's going to pop up. Titans killing the throne bearer with a knife, right? And there where his limbs had been cut piecemeal. Remember that too, because that's going to play in the next myth we pull from Sumeria. Right? Cut piecemeal by Titan's steel, the end of his life was the beginning of a new life as Dionysus. And then we're going to get into this part here, and this is why it's so hard to identify the gods, is because they self-identify as shapeshifters, changelings, they're liars and deceivers, right? They're violent, and the Bible calls them liars and deceivers, Zeus being the father of lies. And so how exactly do you track down a lying shapeshifter? Well, let's give it a shot. Right, so Dionysus appeared in another shape. So this is him fighting for his life, right? So he's using his shape-shifting abilities to fight for his life. Now at first he looks like Cronades, which is Zeus, son of Cronos, right? And then he's like his grandpa, Cronos himself. Sometimes he's a baby, sometimes a mad youth, sometimes a lion, right? He keeps changing. All the way down here he becomes a tiger, right? Or a bull, right? Butting the Titans with his sharp horn. So he fought for his life, until Hera, with a jealous throat, bellowed into the air, that heavy, resentful stepmother, and the gates of Olympus rattled an echo to her jealous throat from high heaven. Then the bull collapsed. The murderers, each eager for his turn with the knife, took piecemeal the bull-shaped Dionysus. And after the first Dionysus had been ended, Zeus learned the trick of the mirror with its reflected image, and he attacked the mother of the Titans. The mother of the Titans is Gaia, right? So he's attacking Earth. He's blaming Earth for this. So this is him. This is Zeus's lie, right? God flooded the earth because of Zeus. It wasn't any of Zeus's choice, even though, I mean, he'd love to destroy totally humanity, but God sent the flood, right? And so here is marking the transition from the death of Zagreus to the Great Flood, and this is what we'll spend the next episode on, is this Great Flood part. And it did not happen immediately, as it's said here, as we'll see in the Bible and also in the Sumerian myths and others. It did not come immediately. This was starting the War of the Titans. This claim, this violence for the throne of power, caused the Titanomachy. It was grasping for straws of power, right? And so he starts the earth on fire and begins into that. But we'll focus on that episode. Let's go to where we're looking, this Bull of Heaven. So, Bull of Heaven, right? So when we go back here, what was he? He had as a horned baby, bellowing like a bull. And when you see other descriptions of him, he is a bull, just like the Minotaur, right? So he's a bull who came from the heavens, the heavenly dragon. So the Bull of Heaven. Where do we find the Bull of Heaven at? In Sumer. Sumer was where all the people from the flood came. So Noah landed his ark on Mount Ararat, per the Bible and other sources, right? That's like northeast Turkey. And then what they did is they stayed together, and they were afraid to come off the mountains, but then they did, right? They were afraid because of the flood. And so they went down into the plains of Shinar, or Sumer, and that's where the Tower of Babel was built, in the land of Samaria, Sumer. And this is where this was written. Very old stuff, and that's where you want to look to get the more of the truth. So here too in the Sumerian myth we have the Bull of Heaven, Zagreus, being offed by a knife, and his members being torn apart and used to mock him and those who love him, tying exactly to what we just read, right? But this is Sumerian, not Greek. An ancient Mesopotamian myth, the Bull of Heaven, is a mythical beast fought by the hero Gilgamesh. The story of the Bull of Heaven is known from two different versions, one recorded in an earlier Sumerian poem and a later in Standard Babylonian, a literary dialect of Akkadian. The more complete Akkadian account comes from Tablet 6 of the Epic of Gilgamesh, in which Gilgamesh refuses the advances of the goddess Ishtar. This leads Ishtar to demand the Bull of Heaven from her father Anu, which is Zeus. He's a sky god, sun god, right? So that she may send it to Gilgamesh. And we know that Zagreus, or the Bull of Heaven, is the son of Anu, right? These are just different names. So that this bull would attack Gilgamesh. So she's mad, wants Zeus' son to come and attack Gilgamesh because he's not bowing, right? And what happens is he defeats the bull. In this little synopsis here, we'll get into more detail. After it's defeated, Enkidu hurls the bull's right thigh at Ishtar, which is what I want to really highlight. Going back to he was dismembered, right? Zagreus was dismembered and used to taunt Zeus, and that's what started the war. And the slaying of that bull resulted in the gods condemning Enkidu to death, an event which catalyzes Gilgamesh's fear for his own death, which drives the remaining portion of the epic. The bull was identified with the constellation Taurus, and the myth of its slaying may have held astronomical significance to the ancient Mesopotamians. So one more time, a son of Zeus represents the zodiac wheel, this false god, right, has much power, and he birthed this son in the age of Taurus, right? And then the next form of Zagreus is Dionysus, which is the ram, the Aries, right? The ram of Aries. And so we go down here. He turns her down. She complains, and the bull comes down, starts blasting men. But Gilgamesh and Enkidu come and fought him. So another tie-in is Gilgamesh and Enkidu are titans. Gilgamesh claims to be 2/3 god, which is a high form of Nephilim, and Enkidu is son of Enki, a god of the abyss, is like kind of like a Poseidon-ish character. So they're titans coming to slay the bull, just like what we just read. So Enkidu goes behind the bull, and Gilgamesh thrusts his knife or his sword into the neck, killing it, right? And what do we read just here? Cut piecemeal by the titan's steel. No, by the infernal knife. He was taken down and chopped piecemeal, and it mocked him, and that started a war, and then the flood, right? And then what happened? Gilgamesh and Enkidu offer the bull's heart to the sun god Shamash. Shamash, once again, is Zeus. When Gilgamesh and Enkidu are resting, Ishtar stands up and curses him, and Enkidu tears off the bull's thigh and throws it at Ishtar's face. Yeah, so he had a dream. So right after, just like in the first thing, he had a dream, and death is coming. So they're all afraid. But let's focus in on the heart part, because that wasn't in where we just read, but it's in the mysteries, and it's in other areas where you can see this. So let's read Clement. He's a great Christian author from the 2nd century. He took the fathers of the church from Paul all the way to his time and put them into book form. So we have I would suggest reading Clement, great Christian writer. And this is him doing apologetics just like me here, speaking about this same cult just like me here. So let's see what he had to say almost 2,000 years ago. The Orphic mysteries of Dionysus are of perfectly savage character. He was yet a child, and the curettes were dancing around him with warlike movement when the Titans drew near. They beguiled him first, right? And then tore him to pieces, even though he was an infant. The poet of the initiation speaks of all these fruits and toys and stuff that they possibly used to distract this god in order to do something evil to him, what we know. And then here we're focused. Athena made art off with the heart of Dionysus. And what we just read, someone took off with the heart of this bull god. It seems to be Athena, who was the daughter of Zeus. She received the name Pallas from that heart's palpitating. But the Titans, who tore him to pieces, placed a cauldron and cooked him. Right? So here we have high levels of evil. This is the reason God flooded the earth, because these mysteries were being taught to men to do this disgusting evil act, and they used this whole story to justify it and call these little bull, ram, goats as gods. Animals are not gods. When they come down, they're not gods, right? But they're trying to make it seem as so. So they're doing this disgusting act, which the world was flooded for, on top of women becoming the mothers of angels, children. That's where the flood came. And so later on, Zeus smelled that nastiness, and he plagued them, and entrusted the limbs of, here he's called Dionysus again, to his son Apollo, the destroyer, come out of Revelation, the entity that comes out of the pit, the abyss, in Revelation 9. In obedience to Zeus, he carries it to Parnassus. All right, and so this event sounds like Egypt, and let me show you why. He continues, if you'd like a vision of the Orgia Corybantan, the mysteries of Samothrace, this is the story. The true Cabreri got possession of the chest. So Osiris's body, he got put in a chest by the Titans. His uncle Set, right? His Titan uncle Set had a chest. He went into the chest. They closed it, and they killed him, cut him up into pieces, right? In which the virilia, that's the productive member of a male, that member of Dionysus, after his blank, were deposited in this chest, right? And he brought it to Tyre. We know a lot of bad stuff comes out of Tyre, right? Where they are traders in glorious wares, just like the Bible says. There they sojourned, being exiles, and communicated their precious teaching of piety. How is that piety? Their ideas are opposite of ours, right? The virilia in the chest, it is a member, right, in the chest for the purpose of worship. And they call this entity Dionysus-Attis. So this connects directly Dionysus to Osiris because of what I just told you. Isis was his sister slash mother slash wife, and she was looking and searching the whole land for his cut up body because Set the Titan, trying to get power, trying to remove Osiris from the throne, did this to him, and the only piece they could not find was his member, because these Titans, what did it say, ate him, and the only piece they did not eat got cast away. And so then she instituted worship of this member. So that leads you to question why the Washington Monument is where it is, with a phallus of Osiris, and then the House of Congress being that dome, the female version, doing the ritual initiation of raising the spirit of Osiris into our president, because Satan seeks to lead every man, especially those in power, right? So this ties right in with Egypt, Sumer in Egypt. And then here's where it continues on, and so your research continue on here if you'd like, but Diodorus Siculi, great author. But the Egyptians, in their myths about Priapos, the Egyptian god Men, say that in ancient times the Titans formed a conspiracy against Osiris, who was identified with Zagreus, and slew him. And then, taking his body and dividing it into equal parts among themselves, slipped them secretly out of the house, but his organ alone they threw into the river, since none of them was willing to take it. Right? In the other version, they were eating stuff. But Isis, or Demeter, or Lo, right? Isis and Demeter being the mother of Persephone, being the mother of Zagreus, who is this bull entity, right? And her name in Egypt is Isis, and Io is the European goddess who was impregnated by Zeus in the form of a bull, and she walked all the way from Greece into Egypt and had her white bull son named Apaphis, who's also known as the Apis Bull of Egypt, right? We have all these tie-ins, so all these stories talk about the same entity who was the main Nephilim coming before the flood, son of Satan / Zeus, right? And so Demeter, Isis, Lo, whoever, tracked down the murderer, and after slaying the Titans, fashioned the several pieces of his body into the shape of a human figure, gave him to the priests, with orders they pay Osiris as a god. Because there was one missing, they decided to bow down to that, right? And then when you look at Priapos and men, their certain member is always ready to roll. It's actually a mockery of goodness, but check it out. And here I wanted to show you why Inanna was so mad. Ishtar was so mad at Gilgamesh and sent the heavenly bull. And like it said, it was because of she wanted to mate with him. Okay. And so it's saying Gilgamesh washed out his hair, wrapped himself in regal garments, placed a crown on his head, and Ishtar raised her eyebrows and saw him, and said, "Come along, Gilgamesh, be you my husband. To me grant your lusciousness. Be you my husband, and I will be your wife. I have harnessed for you a chariot of lapis lazuli and gold, with wheels of gold and horns of electrum. It will be harnessed with great storming mountain mules," right? She's promising all this stuff, and she keeps going. "Your she-goats will bear triplets. Your steed will be bristling, super strong." But then Gilgamesh said to her, "What would I have to give you? She has everything. This is a mother of a demigod, right? Ishtar is one who laid with Zeus, and so she's been cursed of it." So that's what he's going to speak of. And saying, first, you don't need anything. You don't lack anything. What could I give you? Right? And then he says all these things about her being destruction. "Where are your bridegrooms that keep you forever? Where is your little shepherd?" Right? Tammuz, which is mentioned in the Bible, right? "Why do you bake the cakes for the queen of heaven?" This Ishtar. Why do you cry facing the sun, worshiping the sun for your lover Tammuz and Ezekiel and the temple? This is who they're worshiping. This is biblical, right? And because it's biblical, I know it's truth. And then what did she do to those, people who loved her, that she said that she loved, who daily did, worked for her, brought food to her? It says she struck her husband, her men, and turned him into a wolf. So his own shepherds now chase him, and his own dogs snap at his shins, which takes it back to Addis. Okay? Same entity. You love this person, you did all that, but they were all destroyed. And then Gilgamesh says, "Has my own mother not baked that I have not eaten, that I should now eat food under contempt and curses with Ishtar?" Because she brings contempt and curses, because Zeus is with her. "And that alfalfa grass should be my only cover against the cold?" Because he would remove his sanity and he'd be out in the wild, right? Like the entities, that you have out there. Okay, and how's this going to say? I was thinking like a dwarf. "And you, as you listen to these words, you struck him, turning him into a dwarf, or like a Sasquatch, or like an elf, or a hybrid, a Gorgon, a Medusa. When you mess with the gods, you get cursed. When you mess with these false gods, you get cursed, right? And so he's saying, I'm not going to come anywhere near you. And so she gets angry and says, "Father Zeus, Gilgamesh has insulted me over and over." And so she asks, "Give me the Bull of Heaven." She wants his son, his Nephilim's son, I've tied into research to like Minos and the Minotaur, because he was the bull-faced god in Crete, right? And it lines up. And so that's why she got mad. Here's another tie-in to Hadad, right? He was the Sumerian storm and rain god. Okay, and Zeus is the storm god, just like Thor. Zeus is the rain god because he's the king of the heavens. Okay, and here's another big one. The bull was symbolic of Hadad. You know, either the father of the bull himself. I think this is Zeus. He appeared bearded with a club and a thunderbolt, right? Definitely known as a thunderbolt, wearing a bull-horned headdress like we have here. And Hadad was equated with the Greek god Zeus, the Roman god Jupiter, as well as the Babylonian god Baal, right? And we find Baal in the Bible. The Baal cycle or epic of Baal is a collection of stories about the Canaanite Baal, also referred to as Hadad. So all these things start tying together, right? The storm god Hadad and the sun god Shamash jointly became the patron gods of oracles. So you see here that they're different names for the same entity, even, you know, they know it's a long time ago. The storm god Hadad and Shamash are jointly becoming the same, right? And I hope this shows how difficult this research is. They have different names for the same gods in different cultures. And even when you come into the same culture, they have different names for the same god based upon his attributes, based upon the stories, based upon the life that he's lived. They attach those names to him. And so now let's focus more on the biblical aspect. We'll look at the book of Enoch. It's not biblical canon. It's below the Bible, but it's up there because it ties in greatly. It's from the biblical point of view, from God's point of view, looking down at these angels committing evil. So here we are, Enoch chapter 6 in the sacred texts. Move my head. Actually, I'll mess it up. And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied in those days, there were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters, and the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Semyaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered and said, Let us all swear an oath then, and all bind ourselves by mutual curses. Imprecations means curses. Not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. They swore all together and bound themselves by mutual curses upon it. And in all there were 200 of them who descended in the days of Jared, who is like the sixth from Adam, on the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations on it. Mount Hermon means the Mount of the Oath, and found on it was a big old stone with inscription on it saying, Those who proceed to take the oath proceed here at this mountain, the Mount of the Oath, where all these angels, their leaders, chose to come down and take wives and made an oath. That was a curse upon them that they would do so, right? And Semyaza was their leader. And I talked my first episode of this, on Kokobiel. He was a god, a little g god in the west. The Anasazi and such worshipped him. He had the 4 protrusions from his back and always leaning over playing the flute. Right, he was a fertility god, stealing and taking their young women, and when they gave it to him, he brought the rain. You know, so he was doing that type of activity. Here we are, chapter 7. And all the other angels together with them took to themselves wives, and each chose for himself. And they began to go into them and defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant, and they bare giants, great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And then when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured them. And they began to sin against the birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, to devour one another's flesh, drinking the blood. And the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. So in other places, this is where the birds, the beasts, and reptiles, when they sin against them, they put their genetics. So you have, what it looks like, the bull man, the fish man, Dagon, things of that nature. Like, what were they doing? Okay. And here's their leader, Azazel. I've done some research these first two episodes. On Azazel, he is the goat god. He is upside down pentagram guy, right? And he is found in Leviticus 16. All the sins are ascribed to Azazel in Leviticus 16. There's 2 goats picking. One is placed for the Lord and is slaughtered, and its blood covers the sin. The other goat gets drawn for the lot of Azazel. All the sin gets placed upon it. It gets thrown off of a mountain into the rocks and dies in the rocks, and is covered by them to portray that it's in the deep abyss, in the depths of the earth, covered by jagged rocks and darkness as its punishment. And so that's the entity of Azazel, and this is his crimes. This is the beginnings of our knowledge of Azazel. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals and the art of working them, so they can kill each other, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones and tinctures. Not because he loved beauty, but because he wanted to produce fornication and draw them, and have them for himself. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and they became corrupt in all their ways. Semyaza taught enchantments and root cuttings. And then here's one I was talking earlier, Kokobel. He taught them the constellations, and the other ones taught them many other things. Okay? And here we are to the Book of the Giants. This was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls in Qumran. And they're only found in fragments because it's thousands of years old, in jars, barely holding up. And so this fragment is interesting. And your power. Then Ohia, which is a giant's son, said to his brother Hahia something, and then he punished, and not us, but Azazel. So it's saying God was not punishing us, God's punishing Azazel. Right? But no, God is going to punish all of them, the sons of the Watchers, the giants, and none of their beloved will be forgiven. He has imprisoned us and captured you. So at this point, Azazel has been grabbed and bound and is getting taken into the abyss. Right? And so it makes me wonder, is it possible that Azazel is tied into Zagreus? Who is he? Is that a child of his? Because he got wrapped up into the abyss. Enoch in Exodus 16 say that Azazel was punished by being thrown into deep rocks and covered with mountains well into the earth in chains for being the first to fornicate with women. So all these things kind of tie in perfectly. And here we're going to read the judgment by God and how the Lord turns the world back to righteousness. And it's the much more happy part of the story, the best part of the story. So let's check it out. And again the Lord said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert which is in Duadael, and cast him therein, and place upon him rough and jagged stones, and cover him in darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face, that he may not see light. And of the great judgment he shall be cast into the fire, and heal the earth which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish, through all the secret things that the Watchers have disclosed and have taught their sons, which is warcraft, witchcraft, poisons, deceptions, robbery, things of that nature. And the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. And to Gabriel said the Lord, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy them and the children of the Watchers from amongst men, and cause them to go forth. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. For length of days they shall not have, and no request that they make of thee shall be granted unto their fathers on their behalf, for they hope to live an eternal life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. And the Lord said to Michael, go. Right? So before we get into Semyaza, here's the judgment of Azazel, and it ties in directly to Leviticus 16. Read it in the English Standard Version, and I'll show you why. Because of the fact that it's called a scapegoat in the King James Version, and we're not looking to find the scapegoat because that's the covering for his name. We're looking for Azazel, right? So here we are on the highest holy day of the year in Israel, the Day of Atonement, atoned for our sins, right? We need that. Jesus came for that, right? On that high holy day is an example of what happened and what's to come. So what happened was Azazel destroyed the earth and brought sin upon it in the ways we've spoke of. And what's coming after this point here from Leviticus 16 is Jesus being the other goat of sacrifice, right? Take the two goats. The other goat of sacrifice, whose blood is sprinkled on the people and it atones for their sin. The other goat for Azazel, the sin stays on him, and he's cast and killed and covered in rocks, right? But on the lot which fell for Azazel shall be presented alive to make atonement over it, that it will be sent into the wilderness to Azazel, right? And I know that, see, he's against them because they taught them to eat the blood, drink the blood, right? To not get involved into any of that. And so they shall no more sacrifice their sacrifices to goat demons, after whom they, you see, after who they go after. This shall be a statute forever to them throughout their generations. You shall not go after these entities. They are not gods. They were here after the flood. That's exactly the reason Esau got cut off, is because he got with Seir, the Horite's family. Seir meaning satyr, Horite meaning cave dweller. Esau married and took the land and had daughters with goat devils that lived in caves. What kind of man of God produces with a goat woman? And her name means like screamer. When you look up at it, go to Genesis 36 and start looking at click this word right here, Hebrew. Genesis 36, hit Hebrew and study the names, right? Study what it means. Okay? Study to show thyself approved unto God. Needing not be ashamed. Rightly dividing the word of truth. And that's what we're doing here. And I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope this blesses you. I hope you can help me make this channel grow. Please like and subscribe. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing it for the love of this, the love of God, and it livens me to do this. And so, if you could help me, if you could tell me what you think about it, I'd really appreciate it. And I love you. Thanks for watching. God bless you. Bye-bye.